Hey guys, it's Mizzy, and I'm a mixed girl in a mixed up world. Welcome to another episode of Every Victim Deserves Justice. In this episode, I'll be talking about Courtney Heater's case again. To reiterate, Courtney Heater died on February 2nd, 2020. The police claim it's an open and shut drug overdose case, but it's not. She was in an abusive relationship with her boyfriend, Julian. How does a beautiful, vibrant, athletic young woman go from this to this to this? In this episode, we will be covering the abuse Courtney endured, especially an incident that took place in September of 2019. A major reason why I wanted to take on Courtney Heater's case is not only because it demonstrates what happens when a police department does not take a suspicious death seriously, but it also demonstrates how a strong, independent, vibrant, athletic woman who played sports like rugby and co-ed hockey could fall into the trappings of an abusive boyfriend. Her mother, Debbie, and I will continue to discuss Courtney's case, and you will see some disturbing images, but it's only to show what had been done to her throughout her relationship. Courtney Heater's case is a perfect example of what can happen to a woman when she stays in an abusive relationship. So let's dive into the mysterious death of Courtney Heater. How often did you see Courtney when they were together?
It would depend on Julian. I never went out there until shortly before she asked me to bring her home. So this would have been 2019 is the only time I went out there, and then again in 2020 when she died. It just depended. He really isolated her. It didn't start out real fast, but I would talk to her a lot. But again, when he came home, that had to end. When he was around, it had to end. And it was very hard for reception out there. But I saw her, I can't say because it would only be when she came out here because of the child. So the first 6 months she lived out there, no, I didn't see her at all.
Okay.
Because it had to wait until the child left because they didn't go anywhere. He was hiding the child.
Yeah. How did her relationships with her friends and coworkers, everybody that she knew from playing, she played a lot of sports, so she knew a lot of people from playing rugby and hockey and all the activities that she did. Was she staying in contact with those people?
No, she had to guarantee, and I saw it was on her phone about the texting that she had to end all social media before she even got out there. It was shortly after they started dating and that. And she had to show him on video that it was gone. And then it continued more and more, even to the fact with me speaking with her, it was very limited. I was being pushed and pushed out more. He was pretty much making anyone do that anywhere, even with the two neighbors that she spoke with that were right there by the house. He didn't want her going over there either. She would have to do that when he wasn't around. The one co-worker, when she was able to go to work after the child left North Carolina, she was a very good friend. And she saw the marks on Courtney, and really they were just so much alike. None of Courtney's friends from Illinois, it's like she dropped off the face of the earth. She didn't talk to anyone. No one knew what happened.
Yeah.
All of a sudden she's saying how she's going to North Carolina to live her life. She loves this man. She's going to have a great life. She's going to have this job. And then it all ends. Because she's gone. To the day she died, she was off all social media.
So she was very, very, very isolated.
Yes, and not only the town in every way possible, even from me. She so the one friend she had from work, she wasn't even allowed to really see her because Courtney's being dropped off and picked up because he's in control of the car, even though there's many cars to have. So she had to be dropped off. He would wait in the parking lot all day. So whenever he did take her, or she was allowed to go get her a pedicure or whatever, it was never the amount of time he agreed. It was always cut short. And this is all coming from that friend told me. I didn't know this at the time. And he'd call and harass and text. And she better answer. Otherwise, she wasn't going to get to do it again.
Yeah.
She was pretty much a child and he was the daddy.
So what was the job she was working?
She worked for 2 eye surgeons, a short time for the first firm, and then I think it was a year for the second firm, but it was an eye surgeon, very well-known eye surgeon. She actually was an ophthalmologist technician.
Oh, wow.
And they dealt with elderly patients. All the elderly patients just loved her. So she absolutely loved these people. And she was so happy at that eye center in Hinsdale, Illinois. They were very upset when they found out what happened to her.
How long was she at that job in North Carolina? Do you know?
I don't even think it was a year. I think it was from January till October, 10 months or 9 months, something like that.
And
she was planning.
Did she leave that job?
She was laid off, I guess. She was terminated because the boyfriend was in the parking lot waiting for her, doing drugs with this other girl. And when they walked out, all the girls walked out together. He fell on his face in the parking lot. And she was humiliated. There was also, it was a buildup of a few incidences. There was also the incident where in September 25th of 2019, he beat her up pretty bad, almost breaking her orbital eye socket, punching her over and over in the face where the sheriff was called. He told her to tell them that she got that from playing rugby, and I confirmed Courtney was not playing rugby, even if she didn't tell me. I called the one women's rugby association out there. Courtney did sign up to play, but never showed up.
Yeah.
Because he would not allow that. He said she could, but when it came out there, she had to be there on whatever was going on in his life. So once they saw the black eye, and not only her eye, she's got a slit on her cheek, her mouth. He broke her permanent retainer in her mouth, that it wasn't right after that. It was barely hanging on, that was surgically put in. They saw that Courtney had too much going on. And then this is when they started fighting for the custody of the child. So she would have to take last minute days off because she was part of the parade to show that he could have custody. So she would have to go fly down here, drive, a lot of times driving, and be part of this. She was the only stable person for the child to be. And she was a good stable person. She had a job. She had no drug use. There was nothing bad to say about her. That's why she was trying so hard. She thought that it might help him too, but later on realized that it was a mistake, because then she was really seeing the person that he really was.
So that was September of 2019. And they came to visit for, what was it, Thanksgiving that year?
That week, yes. I haven't had a holiday with her for quite a few years. So he was to be down here in court, and it was, I think it was the Monday of the week of Thanksgiving, and she was going to stay a day or two and asked to stay, and I was thrilled. And then when I heard once she stayed that against his approval that they were staying for Thanksgiving Day, and wound up staying that whole entire week and leaving that Sunday. And this is when I find out about the assault, but not knowing what I know now, it was a lot different than a punch in the face. And the reason she was assaulted was she was pulling the keys out of the ignition to stop him from buying drugs. The family made her accountable in many texts, voice messages, that she was the wall between him and drugs. All the beatings she took were for that, was to stop him, whatever it took. Because if it didn't, there was hell to pay from them, from the entire family. And they already weren't nice and welcoming to her. They made her feel like an outsider all the time. It was, she would be very upset about it and ask me to do, but they never went to that house to visit them ever. And even until the end, when they had to start getting the house ready for the courts to investigate the home, they brought old furniture that they never even had a table that whole time. I offered many times to send stuff, and Courtney had those things and she wasn't allowed to bring them. So this child didn't even have a dinner table, a couch that was given later. She lit no washer and dryer. No washer and dryer, no, there's hookups for it. I offered many times. There wasn't even a fridge. I think they went a couple months without a fridge because it was all up to the father of the boyfriend. Everything came, it was like kids playing house in the backyard, it wasn't normal. And she hated that because Courtney's been living on her own for a long time and self-sufficient. And she's always had a job. Even when she lost this job, she wasn't allowed to get another one because he would, and that's another thing I forgot to bring up, because there was one car, she got to work when he decided to. So he didn't have a set time to be at work. She did. She was always being late, having to leave, not to come in, because it was all based on him, even though he worked for the father.
Yeah.
So she knew she couldn't have another job because it's just going to happen again. It's not going to stop.
So you found out about what had happened. What was your thoughts on that? Were you mortified that
I wanted to do something to him then in my home? And I find out during this time that he's actually withdrawing in my home from his drugs. This is where she confesses to me that he's a drug addict. And all the time she was so incredibly positive, encouraging, nurturing, kissing his ass because of the accomplishment that he lied to her that he wasn't doing drugs. Oh, look at this, look at that. Her constantly coming up with ideas how he can get off it. I mean, constant stuff. I saw how positive she was, never complaining, never anything, sacrificing her own self just so that he could be saved. He wasn't worth saving. And when she says this to me in the kitchen I'm sitting in right now at the island that's in front of me, I still picture it, that I tell him after I hear this and we come into the kitchen, I says, you're not taking care of her the way you told me you would. And I says, it's time for Courtney to come home. And I talked to her about going into the union with me and working and getting her a card and working for my company. And he got very upset and said that I should not be talking to her about this. She has him and she doesn't need to come here and work. That if he can't have her, nobody else can. And storms out the door. And I find at this time is when he's going trolling for drugs. So this happened on a daily basis the whole week he was here. And I didn't know, I'm not familiar with this. I thought he's going for cigarettes, what Courtney said. At this particular time is when she told me that about this incident, not to the degree I know today. She told me at this time that when things are good, they're very good. And when things are bad, they're really bad. And I was talking about an area that I was working at, and you know how sometimes I'm left alone to pick up the traffic control cones. And she says that she carries, this is the next thing she said to me, a knife, a weapon in her front pocket at all times. And the first thing that came to me was work, because of me. She's trying to encourage me. And then when she tells me, Mom, he's never stopped doing drugs, not one day. And his parents used to say that, the grandparents, no one ever believed he was off. They were all right, and she was the one that looked stupid and believed. And she says that he's lied about everything. She can't trust him. She can't live like this. And then now looking at her phone, I see all the evidence she was collecting, all the times he lied, how he had to keep, he had to be tracked. She had to have him hand over what money he got paid to keep him. Everyone treated him like a baby, and she was the nanny. She was the nanny, the governess, the keeper of the drug addict. And it was the constant stress on her. He would threaten suicide if she didn't stay.
I'm going to show you a letter from Courtney's boyfriend, Julian, where he displays classic abusive behavior. He apologizes. He claims he'll never do it again, but he also insinuates that he's going to kill himself. Let's zoom into the bottom of this letter, the PS, where he apologizes and he insinuates that her life would be better if he was just gone. He is trying to manipulate her into thinking that he will kill himself if she leaves. That is a classic narcissistic, abusive tactic.
You know, she's got to help him because of the child. She loved that child as if it was her own. And now knowing how he is, she told me at this time that she's got to find a way to save him, because she believes they are going to win. They are winning in court against the mother. And she has the stress that she's a part of that's going to happen. So at this time, she tells me that there's 2 videos on her phone that she's going to use in court when the time is right. She collected a title to get a car, because over and over she begged and begged for a car, even though there's plenty of cars up there, was not allowed to have one. All used cars just sitting up there in barns. She started putting money aside when she would find it and he was high and it was there. She started, so I know he found all that stuff after she died. And I was pretty upset. So she tells me all this, and he comes back after 3 hours and walks in the door. And she said she used to be able to tell when he's high because each eye would be a different color. And the prior girlfriend said the same thing. So it must be something. And I'm up, my house is all open to everything. I'm upstairs now. I walk away, go upstairs because I figured they're going to have a talk now. And she screams to him from one room end of the house, the other, and that screams in a loud voice, "You're a drug addict. You've always been a drug addict." This is something she's never said out loud. He had some drug problems. He was trying to quit drugs. She's calling him an addict. So I could hear her upstairs. I come down and I look at him and I said, "Are you kidding me?" And he just says, "Well, everybody does drugs. Everybody does. I don't believe that your children don't do drugs." I says, "Have you ever met athletes like my children that do drugs?" "I don't think so." I said, "Show me where." He just didn't believe it. She does drugs. They're just not telling me. I'm just not noticing. My kids have been raised by a single parent since 8 and 10. Nobody has a child out of wedlock. Nobody was forced to get married. Nobody smokes cigarettes. Nobody does drugs. I worked hard at this, and thank God I have good kids. But everybody has something. But at least I can testify there is no evidence that she did drugs or her brother. Maybe they tried something once or here. I don't know. I've never got that specific, but they're not drug users. They're not addicts. This is an addict that is always on something. And he's very proud to tell me at this time that he's done every drug out there and knows the cause, effects, and dosages of these drugs, and is proud to tell the mother of his girlfriend. To me, that's not a skill, and that's not something I'm looking for in my child. So she's very upset with him, and she announces she's not going back with him, that he needs to go by himself. During this time, he's contacting his parents about sending him money so he can leave and go home, because he spent all his money on drugs and there's no money to put in the gas tank. I offered to give him money. Courtney said no, that's his parents' problem. She's pretty much done with it. And then she gets hurt out here putting out the garbage. And I find out even more that we take her to the emergency room. She gets, and this is the Sunday when she's supposed to leave. She's needs medication because her back is so bad from falling with her back to the stairs, just 3 steps. And she tells me, not in front of him, but in front of the doctor, that she can't take the pen medication because he's just going to take it all. And I really see the full picture now. And I tell her that you need this. And she's back now thinking that she's going to go home with them. That's what she's telling the doctor, but I know that's not true because he doesn't really know at this time. And I could tell she's not being real firm. He just thinks she's mad because what is he doing again? Drugs.
Yeah.
And now she's getting the first picture. So she tells the doctor that, and she says, if I take the drugs, then she'll let him prescribe them from the hospital. So we get home, and she's still mad, and she tells him that he needs to leave my home, her mother's home, and he needs to go home. He gets the money from his parents. Now he's got gas money. He's going to go. And she is staying, and I'm happy because I don't have to say anything. I did it right this time. I didn't say a lot. I won. She's going to be okay. She's not used to being around and what to look for with drug addicts. She's never been exposed to that. Either have I, either of her brother. We're not been exposed to that. And he fooled her for a long time and ruined her life, not for anything better. So I fell asleep. I hear them talking, nothing's loud. And I fell asleep upstairs. She comes up, and it's after midnight, and she's crying, and Courtney does not cry. She hasn't cried since her father and I got divorced, and she was small. So she's always told me that she doesn't show show her tears for people. They're not worth it. They've hurt her, so she doesn't do that, but she's crying so bad. And she says she's done, but she's worried about her dog, Harley, to go back. She's at home waiting, and who knows who's feeding her. So she just wanted to extend the time here, and it was wonderful, and I'm grateful. She says she's got to go back and get the dog, and she doesn't want to lose any more of her things because every time she moves it, someone takes her things or they get ruined. And if I would promise to come get her the following Saturday after I get off of work, and that I need to be stronger than her because she's only strong when she's out here with me. And she changes her mind about leaving when she gets out there. And that not to think it was directed at me to make her come home, because she's done and she wants to get away from him.
Did you go out that following weekend to get her?
Yes, I did. After work, came home, changed my clothes, drove straight through until the Sunday at lunchtime. And Courtney is a very strong person and doesn't let what people think or say bother her, except when it comes to her reputation. And Courtney was always very confident. You have to be pretty confident when you play rugby. And when you play co-ed hockey, even though she was asked to be on a AAA travel girls hockey team, she wants to check. She wants to be with the boys too. And I think all her team, she was the only girl. And that's pretty confident. And I got a ticket driving out there because so many speed traps and everything else. And the whole time as I'm driving out there, she's texting me, letting me know she didn't tell him yet. She's going to have things packed. She'll be ready to go. She's being real secretive, you know, and she told me she is. And she feels bad I have this ticket. And she says, Mom, it's my fault. If I didn't ask you to come out here, you wouldn't get a ticket. You know, now you got a ticket in another state. And I says, it doesn't matter. I told her that she was worth it. Ticket didn't matter. She was worth it. And she sounded so humble and said, am I really?
And that is a sign of somebody who's been abused. They feel like they're not worth anything. And that's why they stay. One of the reasons why they have to stay in that relationship, because they've been broken down so much. And they, you know, she was dependent on him, and they feel like they're nothing so without that person.
Yes. He always reminded her, and she told me herself, that was his daddy's house, and he calls him daddy. And it's not her house, it's not her car, it's not her anything. And if I didn't send pots and pans there, they would never even hit pots and pans. She was very, very, very broken down there. I even said to her that she doesn't know right from wrong anymore. She's compromised so much. He's never made any holidays nice, nothing, where she's gone way out of her way. So she pretty much thought she couldn't do better. I know she didn't want to come home as a failure. Here she made this announcement of how she met this wonderful person and she's going to live her dream life and he's the best person in the world. But when she met him, she just got through a breakup with a boy that she met that played, a man, I should say, that played rugby like her from Australia. And they had a very long distance relationship. And he wound up not being faithful to her, even though they had an agreement, and they broke up. She was getting over him and the disappointment. She wanted to move to Australia. So she's always had this dream to live someplace she's never lived before. And that's how he steps in. But she really didn't think she was worth it. And by the time I got there, she wasn't there. She let me know that he wanted to take her to eat after she announced that she's got to leave. And I'm okay with that because I won. She's coming home. I'm bringing all her things home, or whatever can't be brought. I'm going to take the stuff to a storage unit and we'll go from there. Her, Harley are going to come home. Ella didn't make it, but that's okay. They're going to come home. And I get there and I'm waiting and there's Harley outside. Harley was never allowed to be in the house, even though Harley was raised out here in the house. They have no respect for animals, even the one dog they have. They're not kind. They don't care if they eat. There's so much to say about the animals. But anyway, she calls me after a while and she says, Mom, he's going to take me shooting with a gun. This is so strange. And she just told him that she's leaving. But at this time, I don't know what exactly she told him, because after another hour, they come back and she doesn't have nothing packed. She didn't want me to know that because she couldn't have anything packed. There's not a lot of stuff there and it would have been noticed. Yeah. So now she's packing and he's mad, but not as mad as I thought he would be. I thought he would be, he's so controlling that he would have been really pissed off. I don't find out till after she is dead. from his sister that she lied and said that she had to come home just to be with me because I was very sick and she wasn't moving out. I find out, and I've known this all along because this has been something that's been hanging over Courtney, that he's let her know many times, is that the toddler, that mother that was his girlfriend at the time, and they were engaged, she had to escape too to take care of a sick grandmother. And his sister, the boyfriend's sister, let us know on Facebook that Courtney didn't want to leave her brother because I lied to her and said I was sick and she had to come home. That's not true. Courtney had to lie to get away, and I didn't even know it at that time. That's why she was being the way she was, and that's why she wasn't allowed to take everything. And it was a lot for her to take what she did, and she wasn't letting me pack up more. But we couldn't have taken all of it anyway. She had to make it look like she was coming back. She only took her clothes. Everything else, like I was trying to grab the mixer, my stand mixer from KitchenAid, and she says, no, leave it. And there was a generator there that was feeding the electricity in the house. The electric was off. And he was upset with her because I saw that. All the time I didn't even bring this up, all the time her cell phone's being disconnected because now it's up to him to help with the bill. And she had money saved up and she paid for a while, but both those cell phones, both those iPhone watches are in her name, her bill, her responsibility. And I know that because it was left as a bill when she died. So we left, and this would have been like the first week of December around, all the way home, we're driving home, we're talking about it. She's sad, she's crying a little tiny bit, but you could see she's not Courtney. She's just a shell of Courtney, and Courtney was bigger than life. She walked in a room and everybody noticed. Everybody wanted her to be there. Oh, good, Coco's here. You know, she was funny and lively. We were a lot alike, and I think she learned a lot of that from me. It's just being friends with everybody.
This is a perfect spot to end this episode. In the next episode, we're going to dive deep into an altercation that happened between Debbie and Courtney, and my theories of why this altercation actually occurred. But before we go, if you were in a similar relationship that Courtney was in, where you were being abused, please take steps to get yourself to a safe place. Don't allow what happened to Courtney to happen to you also. I'm going to show some organizations that will help you. There are places you can go, and there are people who are out there who can help you. Thank you for watching. I am Mizzy, and I'm a mixed girl in a mixed up world. See you next time. Thanks, guys.